Welcome to the Beyond Cinema Studio presented by Celebs.com up here at the Sundance Film Festival. Barbara Kopple, Mariel Hemingway. Firstly, congratulations on having the film up here. What was it like, I think, what was it, 2 or 3 nights ago now, seeing yourself up on screen in this very personal way, sharing this story of your family?
It was really intense.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It was. I'd seen it 6 weeks prior, but seeing it with an audience, seeing it on a big screen, seeing it color corrected and sound,
right, the mix,
you know, the mix. It was
right.
just, it was amazing.
Yeah.
I'm so humbled and honored that Barbara did this film, because she's an artist. She's a master at her craft, and
Yeah.
she really took me and my story and my family, and she really crafted a film that is so graceful and so sensitive and so uplifting. I mean, everybody's like, oh, it must be really dark. It's not. It's such a powerful, uplifting, positive story, and that's because she took it and handled it with such grace and beauty.
I'm sorry. She is one of the most magnificent storytellers. She's funny, she's serious, but yet she lets you go beneath the surface and really dig deep. And she does that not only about her family, but also about herself. So she was a documentarian's dream. What
Yeah.
can I say?
Well, you've taken ownership of this subject for a while now. I mean, you had your book as well. So what did you want to explore visually working with Barbara on this project that you didn't think you could kind of convey in a literal sense?
Well, in the world, I've sort of been a spokesperson, again, you know, for the prevention of suicide and mental illness and stuff. But I never really explored the story from inside out, you know, really from my point of view. I'd written a book, but it was still a little bit surfacey. And when Barbara and I, you know, we sort of looked at each other and said, okay, let's do this thing.
This is
for real.
Yeah,
this is for real. Like, I made a pact with myself that I was going to be completely honest and straightforward about the story. I was really going to tell the truth.
Yeah.
And even if there were times when things came out of my mouth and I was like, oh, wow, I can't believe I'd never said those words. They'd never been uttered, you know, into the world.
Yeah.
They were thoughts in my head. And so it was a powerful experience and great.
Yeah, and I thought, do I really want to know this?
Seriously, receiving this information in this personal sense, it also gives you, it must give you like a sense or feeling of like a burden of responsibility to this person as well.
Well, I think having a burden of responsibility to the people that you film is important,
Yeah.
because they're trusting you and they're opening up, and you just have to really be precise as what is the story that I'm trying to tell.
Yeah.
And even if something is so remarkable, you have to discard it if it doesn't go along with the path of the story. And I had to do that a lot. Our first cut was 5.5 hours. And I called her up and I said, it's 5.5 hours and I don't know what babies to lose. And she's on the other end of the phone. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
She goes, do you want to, you know, what do you think? And I'm like, no,
do you
I'm
want me
fine.
to-
You'll figure it out.
Yeah, do you want me to tell you my problems? No, they're your problems.
Yeah, I mean,
I just knew that it would be too difficult. Like, what do you choose? How do you choose what's important and what's not? And what was really great is watching her find the story. I mean, she really found the story for this.
who approached whom?
Well, actually, OWN and my best friend Lisa Erspamer, who was working at OWN at the time, said, I really want you to tell your story. And I'm like, dude, I'm crazy. Like, I come from nuts.
Out of
man.
my
And
face.
she's like, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
like, back off. She's like, no, that's why. And I said, all right. But then she said, look, I am, you know, I'm in touch with Barbara Kopple. And I'm like, the Barbara Kopple? Like, Barbara Kopple?
Right.
I mean, when you get an opportunity to work with somebody who is as great as she is, like, I thought, okay, let me consider this. And it didn't really take me that long. We met for breakfast and we had such a good time. And
So where did this meeting take place?
New York City
New
and
York
the
City,
Standard.
Standard Hotel.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, we talk about the craziness of it and you kind of acknowledge that and embrace that. But I don't know, 3 sisters growing up, even without the fame and pressure. I mean, 3 sisters, that's a classic literary situation you got there.
Yes, it is, isn't
that,
it?
I mean, that will lend itself to drama no matter what.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the film is actually a tale of three sisters.
It
And
is.
how each sister met challenges in a different way. Because we were able to find a lot of footage on Margot. She was doing a film, and we found 43 hours of archival footage of her with the family.
Wow.
So as Mariel,
And that nobody
That
had
you've
ever
never
seen.
seen.
Nobody
and
had-
I'd never seen. And I didn't even know she had, and she didn't tell me.
I didn't tell her.
Until I saw it.
Oh, that's
Right.
nice.
Yeah.
Because she would be telling me stories, and then because I've seen some of the footage, I could prompt her to say more.
Right.
And she would say things, oh, and my mother was in the kitchen, and she put her feet up on the counter into the sink, and there it would be. And then they would have wine time, which I will let you explain.
Wine time was when my parents, at about 5 o'clock or 4 or 3 or whenever it needed to happen, would have what's called wine time, and they'd start pouring wine, and things got a little nuts after that. It was like, first it started out happy, then it got a little uncomfortable, and then
Yeah.
there was like, crashing bottles around the house. But the weird thing was, and I didn't know this, is that footage. She has footage of wine time. And I always thought, when you're recalling the memories of your childhood, you sort of think, maybe I'm not getting this right. Maybe I'm kind of imagining this. But she found footage. It was exact, and it was so... It took my breath away. And seeing my mother for the first time, my daughters, who've never seen their grandmother.
Right.
I mean, one was like a child, a baby,
right.
and the other wasn't even born yet.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like finding one of the biggest treasures imaginable, because she would tell me and I would see it, and I got to put it together into the film, and it just made it so much more complex and rich and powerful.
And then underlying everything or over everything was this kind of context of this Hemingway name and all the problems that came from Ernest himself. And
Absolutely.
we don't necessarily need to see him to know that story. And
But you do see him
exactly.
in the film
But
a
that's
little bit.
and
Yeah.
and the fact that you were in the womb,
Right.
when he left the
When he-
planet.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, also too, just what the Hemingway name means.
Yeah.
Like the Kennedy name.
Right.
It's so iconic. It's so mythical.
Well, it's not only iconic and mythical, but it's pop culture. I mean, if we look at many of the things that kind of took place over the last 2 years in pop culture, whether it's Woody Allen's Midnight in Paris, this amazing rendition
Silver
of
Lining
him,
Playbook,
Silver Linings
it's
Playbook,
like,
and he comes in the
of
middle
course.
of the
I know.
night. So you are constantly faced with this barrage of reference to
All the
someone
time.
who was your granddad, or,
Bigger than
or
life.
should have been
Yeah.
your granddad.
Yeah.
But and that's
Good
one
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's one of the powerful things about the film is also you wanting to escape that moment or those moments and going out and having those catharses and the way you dealt with it.
Exactly. And that's kind of the beauty of it. It's like the tale of three sisters is that two sisters dealt with their pain and their addiction, which was obviously genetic, it was like sort of passed down. And I'm running away from that. I'm like, I want to be everything but that.
Yeah.
And yet embrace all the creativity that my grandfather was and whatever that I have in this heritage. But to get away from that, and what's great about the story is that it's uplifting because you really see that I've found my place with my lifestyle choices. That actually becomes the positive at the light at the end of the tunnel.
And I mean, there's so many scenes in the film that are just so unbelievable and so full of joy. Of the corner that she went around, that Mario went around. For one, she's jumping on a trampoline and doing backflips, and her daughter is watching her and saying, "Who is that woman? Who are you? Is that my mother out there doing backflips on the trampoline?"
Right.
So it's just beauty the way that she was able to round that other corner and to make different choices in her life that were also challenging. I mean, climbing mountains with her bare hands.
Right. It was
or
like a physical interpretation
plunging into freezing water.
Right, exactly.
Just letting it envelop you
Yeah.
to feel alive.
Yeah, it's like you needed those physical expressions.
Well, that's actually, nature was my solace as a child. Like
Yeah.
getting outside, because I lived in Sun Valley, Idaho, which is very close to Park City here. And it was the only place that I felt like okay.
Did you ever feel kind of reservations for enabling your daughters to be so creative as well?
No, I mean, I think that that's the good part of the genetics. You know, I think that that's the part that you go, oh, that's so awesome that you have that. And my daughter Langley is such an exquisite artist, and my eldest Dre, who just came out in a film, is a really wonderful actress.
Great film too.
And so awesome, and she's, you know, she's beautiful and tender and sensitive, and I love that. And what I feel like this film has done is said, you know what, let's break that chain of whatever people think is a curse or whatever it is, and say, I wanted to give them their life on their own without the attachment of all that fear that I lived with.
Yeah. But do people place it upon them because they have the name?
You know what? They don't. They don't, and I think that this film's going to help that even more. Yeah. Because I don't know. I don't.
Well, right at the beginning of the film, a woman from Town and Country is interviewing Mariel and Langley, and she said, so do your friends, to Langley, who's in her early 20s, this absolutely gorgeous young woman, do you ever think about the legacy of the Hemingway, of your grandfather? Do you talk about it? And she said, no, I never talk about that. Nobody ever mentions that with my friends. I mean, I'm living my own life. I'm my own person.
Yeah. But I find, like, you know, even though she's doing these amazing illustrations and other things, is that you may not even be willing to admit what you feel and acknowledge sometimes. Do you know what I mean? Especially like when you're younger like that.
Well, I think, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, I spent my whole life not obviously running from crazy and being afraid of it, but not really talking about it. But the good news is, like, when she watched this film, the way with which she really took it in is so beautiful. Like, she really got it. She's like, wow, I really see who you are. I really see who our family is. And it was really helpful for her. I mean, if anything else, if it helps my girls, what a blessing. And if it also helps some other people to realize it's not just a story about the Hemingway family. It's everybody's story. Mental illness affects all of us.
But there is this thing, like, I do remember hearing about Margot. Do you know what I mean? I remember the feeling I felt that day. And that was 15 years ago or thereabouts. And so does that feel for you still kind of like yesterday, or does it feel like it was another chapter, another life ago?
It feels a little of both. It feels a long time ago for me. I mean, I have grown and understood it, and, you know, like, and I talk about it in the film, the mixed emotions I had about that moment of her death, and, like, you know, the not being able to crying because you can't cry, you know, all these weird emotions that come up through that moment. It was hard, but you know, the film for me was a real way for me to kind of come full circle and make peace with myself, because I had a lot of guilt about our relationship, and having seen the film, I now know that I'm complete, and I have so much more compassion after seeing the film. I have so much more compassion for the pain that she was in that I didn't even realize.
And also, for me, it's sort of the exact opposite, because I never got to know Margot. So I looked at 43 hours of Margot and just felt that I saw her in her highest, happiest moments and watched her decline into her lowest moments. So I felt like I knew her so well, and that her voice was a very, very strong voice. So it's the opposite in a way.
In terms of losing babies or having to cut babies out of them, what was there? Is there one that you held on to till the final moment that didn't make it that you want to tell us about?
Well, one that I really loved, only because it was so wild and incredible, is that Mariel went to Overeaters. And
I forgot that.
and
Overeaters Anonymous.
Yes, Overeaters Anonymous. And people would be sitting in the room and they would be saying things, you know, hi, I'm Jane and I eat a whole cake every other day, right? And it got to be Mariel, and I eat bowls and bowls of salad.
And I was kicked out.
And she was kicked out.
They thought you were making a mockumentary or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, they thought I was like making
Yeah.
fun of them.
They
And
thought
then seriously,
Christopher
I
Guest.
thought
For her,
I had
it
an
was
obsession.
important. Yeah.
And I was like, you know, like hi, I'm Mariel Hemingway, and I went over here and I'm like, I know this will sound crazy, I said, but I eat bowls full of lettuce, and they were like, you need to leave.
Right.
That is
Us all
not
feel
Dunkin'
bad.
Donuts.
But that was so wild and so unexpected that I wanted to keep it in.
In fact, they probably wanted to take you to a Dunkin' Donuts
Yeah, they probably
and
wanted
make
to-
you
yeah,
overeat.
they probably wanted to deep fry me.
You want to find out what it's
Right.
like to be me?
Force feed her.
Let's bring it on.
This
Let's
is
bring
what
it
we
on.
go through.
Yeah,
Right.
very cool. Well, we appreciate you bringing some of that crazy into here today. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us, and congratulations on the film and having this amazing reception to it up
All
here.
right. And thank you.